we are gonna summarize now, like what are the best layers of protection, whether you're doing short-term rentals, commercial properties, you have multiple LLCs, and Jeff's gonna walk us through exactly the best summary and the best protection for you.
Perfect. So I mentioned earlier, I'm a huge fan of layered asset protection, right? Now, what does that mean? That means we need as many layers of protection between you and the attorney trying to bring the lawsuit against you. And so we've covered some of them already, Ed. I know we've discussed a few of them. One that we didn't spend a whole lot of time on is a lease agreement. Now, this is very specific. This is very important for short-term rentals without getting too in depth here. But can I tell you, do not trust Airbnb and VRBO for the lease agreements, because they're a platform. If you haul someone into court and you want to evict them, in fact, there was a story recently that came up where there was a woman who's been living in an Airbnb in California, I think for almost a year or over a year, and they can't evict her. They didn't have a lease agreement. They didn't handle it properly. So the point is, this lease agreement needs to set the rules for the relationship. And if you trust on Airbnb or VRBO to set those rules, they don't care. And the court's not gonna care. The court's gonna say, what was your contract? Show me your contract. This is critical. You can also use what's called liability waivers to help shift the risk of using certain amenities on your property over onto the guest. They initial it. They understand when they come in, they're assuming the risk of that activity. It can help you, you can actually bring a summary judgment against them in court to sometimes get that lawsuit thrown out preemptively if you have a good lease agreement. That's number one. Number two, insurance. We talked about this. If you're doing short-term rentals, you need commercial insurance, right? We went over this and the importance of this. Layer number one, layer number two. I don't know that I went into it too in depth, but you need 1 to 2 million in premises liability coverage.
Correct. Okay.
That's key here. That's a big part of that. Then number three, that's when we start getting into LLCs, right? You need to make sure you have the property in an LLC. We discussed that in depth. That is the next layer. Then we start talking about holding company strategies. And even the better and best that I discussed with you, that is a holding company strategy, right? Both of those integrate that. Finally, that's when you get into even more advanced strategies, which you can take advantage of trusts. If you use a trust, and I'm going to tell you, I work with a lot of doctors, they're worried about being sued from a top-down attack, which means they're afraid of being sued for medical malpractice. Yeah. They're being sued for those type of issues. What if you get in a car accident and it's above the limits that you have on your car accident coverage, right? Your personal injury protection. You can use multiple different types of trusts, revocable trust, irrevocable trust. The point I want to make is this is important to consider every layer. At STR Law Guys, we actually address each and every one of these issues because to me it's important to have all the layers with the boxes checked, not just one or two.
I love it. And so by doing this, it makes it practically impossible to sue you because you're making, and the reason that is because you're making it so you're de-incentivizing the attorney from going after you and saying you just got to go after their insurance.
That's right. That's right.
And that's where we want to be.
Look, this is all about, everybody here, if you're an investor, knows this. You want to mitigate risk. Yep. That's why you do your due diligence on a property. That's why you run P&Ls. That's why you do all of that. This is risk mitigation for protecting all the wealth you're spending all your time building.